So, it's been a minute. Hi. I had surgery last month. I'm totally okay, but that's why I kind of poof for a bit. But anyway, I'm back. Hi. I wanted to talk about cosplay contest rules today because I feel like there's a lot of confusion about them and like what makes a good craftsmanship cosplay contest and what the rules normally look like and stuff like that. So that's what this video is going to be about. And I have found what I feel like are some of the best cosplay contest rules that I have yet seen. And I wanted to go over them today and show you why I personally think they're like really good and kind of things to look for when you are thinking about entering a craftsmanship cosplay contest. So, apologies, I will be looking at my computer for a good chunk of this video, but that's this. You can see the blue light on my hands. All right, so today I'm going to be looking at Atlanta Comic Con's new and revised 2025 Craftsmanship Cosplay Contest rules, which I was legitimately shocked were as good as they are. Full transparency, I have been competing at Atlanta Comic Con since about 2018. I think that was the first year that it existed, but I've been doing it since the beginning at ACC, and it's been okay. The last couple of years have gotten a little bit better. Pre-COVID was like not great for their rules and everything, but for those of you who don't know, ACC is part of a corporate convention circuit. I believe it's Wisconsin, Indiana, Tampa Bay, and ACC. There's like 4 of them. ACC is a corporate con, which means that it's run for business by a business. Please don't headbutt my microphone. Thank you. All right, so what do we have here? So cosplay contest rules. We have the application deadline, which is June 4th at midnight Eastern Standard Time. Welcome applicants. Please read the rules below. Failure to follow the rules or provide a complete application will automatically disqualify you from consideration. First thing that I want to highlight right here is their very first section, which is which cosplays are eligible to enter. I really, really like this because one of the biggest issues that has been occurring, especially since the post-2020 cosplay boom, has been people not understanding which cosplay contests are for which people. So a lot of cons have varying types of cosplay contests. You'll have your walk-on, your performance, and your craftsmanship. All 3 are very different types of contests and require very different skills. For this one right here, they clearly define this is a build-based or craftsmanship competition. This means the costumes must be handmade and not store-bought or modified, which means no thrifted builds, no pre-purchased builds, nothing. You must hand make your costume. And then what I really like is that there is an additional addendum to explain what a modified cosplay is, which is modification is when you buy a base piece and add to it or change it. This is an amazing solution for many cosplayers. However, it isn't eligible for a build-based craftsmanship competition. Mwah. Perfection. As someone who thrives off thrifted modified cosplays, it's something I really love to do. It's something I still do. Them adding this in to explain that I think is really great because I know on my end, I entered competitions when I was much younger, and I've had some friends talk about this too, where I didn't understand what the lingo meant. I didn't understand what craftsmanship meant because I thought, well, I made this one piece. Doesn't that mean that I made the costume? Having it where they're explaining what it means for these specific types of costume contests, I think is really good because it makes sure everyone knows going in exactly what is required. The next section explains a little bit more of that, which says how much your cosplay needs to be homemade. That depends on your division. Please follow the guidelines below. It's got a youth section, which is usually just try and make something and you're doing great. Novice, I think, is really cool, is 50% homemade. Intermediate is 75%, and masters is required to be around 90% homemade. Now, I would like to preface this as a cosplayer who competes in the Atlanta circuit. You have to bust out about 100% build to win most of these in Atlanta, but anywhere else, you'd probably be okay doing this 50, 75, 90%. But as someone who competes here in Atlanta, who's actively watched people win journeymen with like fully handmade shoes and like everything's patterned to perfection, I can't even say anything myself. The last cosplay contest I won, I literally hand patterned and handmade every aspect of that costume except for like 2 things. Yeah, that was journeyman. So if you're in Atlanta, you're going to want to make a lot more than it says. All right, so it has which division should I enter? That's ultimately up to you unless you're in the youth division. However, here are some guidelines that we recommend. So of course, youth 12 and under, want to make sure the kiddos are competing fairly and they're not getting forced to compete against people way above their skill level. Novice has not won or placed in any contests yet and or entered no more than 3 contests. Intermediate, entered more than 3 contests and or has won placed in more than 2 craftsmanship competitions. This is interesting. We'll come back to this. Masters. This is described as, but not limited to, cosplay craft that is close to or at a professional level. Takes on cosplay prop commissions for other cosplayers. Makes some income creating cosplays. Has entered one and or placed in multiple contests at the intermediate journeyman level. And then there's also a group, which is 2 or more cosplayers who wish to compete, all of their divisions or solo entries. Let's talk about this. I find this fascinating. Okay, so I will say my one little nitpicky thing is I think having it where your divisions are based on how many contests you have entered is a little odd. Let's be really honest. A lot of us enter and we're not going to win at all. So I'm at 14 competitions entered. I'm not counting anything pre-2022 because everything I entered pre-2022 was not craftsmanship, or it was stuff that I didn't understand was supposed to be craftsmanship and I was entering anyway. But 2022 was when I started officially entering craftsmanship level cosplay contests. So since 2022, I have competed 14 times across 3 different states. I have only won 4 times. Fully. That's kind of the norm. The norm is pretty much you're not going to win a lot ever. So I think having it where entered contests is what ranks you is a little odd. Because again, here I am, 14 contests in, and I'm only just now masters. I hit masters at my 12th contest. So that's my little nitpicky thing. What I do think is really interesting, though, is that for Atlanta Comic Con, you need to have at least 2 novice level awards of some kind to be considered intermediate. And honestly, I think I kind of agree. You win any ranked award, first, second, third of a novice category, you are immediately bumped up to intermediate. I feel like there needs to be more of a distinction of the amount of awards per category that you win in order to allow you to bump up, not the amount of awards total. I think people need to be allowed to spend more time in novice in order to build more skills before getting into intermediate, because intermediate's very scary. I feel like people need to have at least 3 awards, and I'm saying this even about myself. I only have 2 journeyman level awards. I think people need to have at least 3 journeyman level awards to bump up to masters, unless they are bumped up by a convention or personally feel the need to bump themselves up and compete at a master's level. This is my hot take. We're going to leave it at that. All right, and then of course group. And I don't think there's any real need to go over that. Group is pretty self-explanatory. You compete with multiple people. You're all working together on either the individual cosplays or you're all working on the costumes. The last part on the rules is just what should you include in your application. Build books, progress photos, test photos, finished cosplay pictures, and so on. The more information we have to access your entry, the better. Make sure your link is public and accessible to anyone with the link. If we cannot access your link, you will be denied. They usually want you to submit a Google Drive folder. This is another really interesting little tidbit, though, that I saw, which is, can I enter multiple cosplays? According to ACC, you can enter multiple cosplays via different submission forms during the online submission, but they will only choose one costume. I find this kind of interesting that if you're feeling like you've got 2 or 3 different costumes and you're not sure if they're going to work for this con, you can enter multiple times and they will pick the one that they feel like is going to work the best with their rules. So let's say you have a couple costumes that you're not quite sure if you hit that 50, 75, and 90% mark. You can enter all of them and they will choose the one based on whoever looks over these applications, which they feel like of the costumes that you've entered fits under all of these rules that we've just gone over. And I think that's kind of cool. I think it's really important to have really well-defined rules. I really like at the top of this, they really talk about what a craftsmanship contest is and a little bit of information on stuff like that. I have some friends that are planning on competing at ACC, so I'm really curious to see what their experiences are. I'm not planning on competing at all as of now. We will see if that changes. You never know. But yeah, I'm really curious about this. And I'm curious, if you enter cosplay contests of any kind, what do you think of the rules at your cosplay contest? Do you think that they're very well defined? Do you think they're kind of confusing? Do you think that they need to tweak some things? What do you think about the ranking system here? I think the ranking system kind of only applies for contests in America. As far as I'm aware, cons across the world don't usually have that except for here. So I'm really curious what you guys think about that. If you have any questions, as always, be sure to leave them down below in the comments and I'll get to them as soon as I can. I'll see you all next time.